You talked a little bit about one of maybe the dark side of stars is that they can create this toxic environment or maybe mistreat, coworkers, or organizations can just create systems that lead to that type of mistreatment. So how can organizations, again, maybe mitigate against some of those risks in terms of, making sure that there's still a collaborative environment, there's a good team environment, surrounding the stars?
So there's everything about balancing dependence, balancing investments that I said before. I would also say creating an expectation that any kind of mistreatment of other employees, whether you're a star or not, just won't be tolerated. So I think ideally, right, we have managers who recognize these issues right away and they nip it in the bud. They let the star know that's not acceptable behavior and it won't be tolerated. I think the reality is that stars have this immense influence and other employees may be hesitant to speak up if they're being mistreated by a star. And even when they do speak up, managers may be in the situation where they're afraid that they can't afford to lose the star, and so they don't exactly know how to respond. They don't know what the best course of action is. And so I think this really does come down to the manager. It's really taking a stand that at whatever point I become aware of this behavior, whether it's ideally at the beginning or even if it's later and you've got this toxic work environment, being really clear in your messaging to the star that this won't be tolerated. Even if this has gone sort of under the radar up to this point, this is not something we'll continue to tolerate. And being consistent with that message, so you can't necessarily expect if a star's been acting like this for years that all of a sudden you talk to them once and they're going to clean up their act, right? Mm-hmm. So kind of being consistent, if it happens again, sending the same message every time. And if this continues to be repeated behavior and the star doesn't seem to be changing the way they're treating people, that it may be time to cut ties with the star. So saving or protecting the employment of, or the ego of one star is never going to be worth, alienating or compromising the well-being of the rest of the organization or even a few other employees.
Mm-hmm. So maybe just a quick follow-up to that is, do you find with stars that there's particular types of behaviors that they engage in that kind of cross this line? Because I would imagine in some cases, if it's things that are clearly a violation of organizational policies like sexual harassment, that's maybe more clear cut to deal with. But there might just be the stars particularly demanding of the people that they work around, or maybe they're just kind of a little bit eccentric in the way they work, right? Because they are somewhat unique or different. So I imagine that there's kind of different gradations of what this mistreatment or poor collaboration might look like.
There absolutely is, and actually I think that's a problem because there's a huge one problem is that there's a huge gray area. So you do see that they're maybe overly demanding. In other cases you see that stars are actually verbally abusive to employees who they think aren't meeting their expectations. Mm-hmm. This is particularly true if among employees who are in a position supporting the star or who are on the team of the star, where the star, whether they're in a position of formal authority or not, are sort of taking on this leadership role in the sense that they feel they have the authority to say whatever they want in response to what they think is a lack of performance or performance that's up to par by their peers or the people who are supporting them. Which obviously is not leadership at all, but sometimes they kind of take that view.
Yeah.